Is there a more successful personality in the history of film? You know him as the Academy Award winner for True Grit, and I've just had now 2 or 3 days to get to know him, and he really is like he is. Do you know what I mean by that? Well, I'll explain it later. It certainly is a great pleasure for me to be able to say, ladies and gentlemen, John Wayne.
I really didn't expect him to be that big, did you? You're 6'2". 6'4". 6'4". You like that,
Listen,
huh?
I look...
Yeah? Well, let's... John, you're just going to have to just sit here and enjoy it.
Well, I have to look up at every basketball player in the country. I feel short now.
No, I thought maybe that you know, the way they shoot movies, and I put the camera on the ground and shoot you next to an oak tree or something, but you really are a very, very big fellow. And you aren't, I don't know if I've ever seen you on a talk show. You don't kind of, you hate this, don't you? Come on.
No, I do not hate it. I've gone on Merv Griffin 2 or 3 times. I've been on with Carson.
They treat you
trying to think, yeah, they, you know, I'll give it back.
Do you?
Yeah.
How does it feel to be imitated by all those people? Is that...
Well, it's hard to keep up my image. I can't imitate all of my imitators, so I'm afraid they won't know who the fella's imitating.
Rich and Gorshin and Viner and all of it. Who, how would you imitate John Wayne? Just one line. Just one line.
Well, all right, Pilgrim.
You know, he went shopping over the weekend. Was it over the weekend in downtown Chicago?
Yeah.
And if you don't see him, which is very hard not to do, heads turn just because of the voice. All over Michigan Avenue. Was that bad? That's a bad imitation. You got the Oscar for True Grit. You are certainly one of the most remarkably successful people in the history of your business. And you're a sort of unassuming fellow, you know? You're just sort of standing there. I get the feeling that you're not quite sure what...
I'm not quite sure about anything, particularly in front of a bunch of women.
Yeah. Did you fight as a kid? Did you ever really give somebody a shot?
My name was Marion Michael Morrison. Do you think I ever fought?
You had to compensate for the name, didn't you?
Yeah.
You had a horse, as I recall, that you...
Named Marion? No.
But you did have didn't you? You had a horse as a kid, didn't you? A skinny...
Oh, yeah. I had to go to school out in Mojave Desert. I had to go to school on a horse. He was kind of skinny, so they called me Skinny for a while.
Let me get you... Can I ask you some heavy stuff? You don't...
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
You don't get mad at me, will you?
Not very often.
That's the biggest hand.
The only thing that's quick-tempered in this state is the weather. I can't believe it. Man, they got mad at somebody yesterday, didn't they?
It just went, all of a sudden, wham, it was like the end of the world. You want Ronald Reagan to be president?
Of course.
You working out there, or how do you feel about it? Is it going to happen?
I think he's going to have a tough job, particularly on the press. I see yesterday, you know, when the president's camp won a state that was in the president's pocket by 53 to 47%, they made a big hullabaloo. It's headlines.
Now, what state you mean?
Well, in this case, it was Illinois, wasn't it?
Well,
40.
Reagan got a little over 40% of the vote here.
43%, yeah.
Okay. And your point is what? That's okay?
This made a great big thing now. It's headlines. Cronkite and his lesser satellites say he's all through. Now, last week he won one state, what was it, 92 to 8%. Another one he won 75 to 25%. Another one he won by a big majority. Even in the Tribune, it was on page 16, and in the more liberal papers, it was on 39 at the bottom of a feature on somebody else. I mean, I just can't understand how the one thing can be so important and the other not.
So you think he's got a real shot then? You know, this is...
I think that the man has great capabilities. I don't know whether he has a shot at it at all.
But is it politically realistic to expect him to get anywhere against an incumbent president who has not been doing so badly in the... Sure, yeah, or nominated. Let's talk about the nomination. That's the first, Malcolm.
Well, I think that he'll be a noticeable figure at the convention, let's say.
You're not altogether uncomfortable with Gerald Ford, are you?
Not at all. I just, his camp is what bothers me. I mean, he has no followers or no team. They're all manipulators. He makes a statement and they manipulate something around, and he has to vacillate and say that that's, that, you know, change his point of view. I feel sorry for him. I think he's a terrific guy, but I'd just like to see him change the whole setup, and I don't think that it will happen with Jerry Ford. And I like him very much personally, and I don't think we're going to go down the drain if he becomes president. I just happen to be for the change, and I feel that that the other man proved himself in California. He took it over as a bankrupt state, and 8 years later turned it back with a $4 billion surplus. He put men in charge of the damn bureaucracies that didn't want the jobs, rather than somebody that was trying to build up the bureaucracy to make themselves important. They gave him back the key to some of those offices and said, you don't need it. He just did a fine job. He came up with a law for the state where you could only tax the people up to 6% of the state income. And this was a voice from the wilderness, you know. But the liberals managed to aberrate that to where the people didn't realize what he was doing. He had emergency rules in where they could tax for a couple of years more than the 6%, but if they did it longer than that, it had to go back to the people. Now, this is the only way we're going to clear up bureaucracy and big government and unimportant branches that develop in order that a man can feel more important in his particular bureau.
But you've got some friends who are liberals.
I'm liberal.
Come on. You're liberal.
Of course.
I'll bet you $100 you're not going to vote for Tom Hayden in California.
Well, I don't think that Tom Hayden is liberal. I understood liberal as, maybe I read the wrong dictionary, but I thought that a liberal was a man who would listen to everybody's point of view and then make up his mind what he was going to do. I made up my mind pretty fast, but I don't know of any of these so-called liberals that listen to anything but their own mouth. Pardon my English.
Got 1,000 questions out there. Let me just pick up some of the loose ends here. You know, your movies have had such an impact on our culture. There's you are a kind of a, you know, you're the...
Well, I hope the shootist has some kind of an impression on it. I hope enough people go to see it.
That's Jimmy Stewart, Richard
Jimmy
Boone?
Stewart, Orrin Bacall, Richard Boone, Hugh O'Brien, and a young fella named Ron Howard, who I think is as good an actor
Now, is this
as
the
I've ever worked with.
Happy Days clip?
Yeah. He's just wonderful.